So in this lab, we will be first implementing the bag of words and TF-IDF. So for that, we want to revise this concept. I have already taught this in lectures, but for this lab purpose, I'm again going to revisit this topic. So bag of words is one of the data transformation technique. Generally, when we have multiple sentences, you can see here S1, S2, S3 are three sentences. He is a good boy, she is a good girl, boy and girl are good. These are the three sentences, okay? And we have to implement bag of words on this. So we have to first remove the stop words. We can do the lower casing, right? Lower casing can also be done easily. So practically we will remove the stop words and get the work done, but lowercase can also be handled. It's just that for removing the stop words, we will see in lab how to remove it. But this he is a or is a here and so is a and are the four stop words here. These will be removed, and even he and she is also stop word because it is actually not giving us anything in terms of when we do the prediction. So we will be removing all these things and we will only keep the important words. So after removing the stop words, we have this good boy, good girl, boy, girl, good. And if we see there are three unique words and we have written the frequency of the same, the good is three times S1, S2, S3 may three words are there, the three unique words. And then good is three times. It is in every sentence. Boy is twice and girl is also twice. You can see, you can count. So because this data set is small, so this example can be understood easily. But in real life, when you will be given a data set, you will not have very small sentences. It might have big sentences, and also there will be thousands of unique words. But for now, for the understanding purpose, I have taken very small example. And in this, you have to just plot frequency. uh, you have to plot this frequency table. This is this is kind of a vectorization. And for S1, we are making the row, we are filling this row as 110 because good and boy are there in the first sentence, but girl is not there. So 110 is the code. It is the bag of words code for first sentence. 101 is for the second sentence, and 111 is for the third sentence. So we will now practically do this. We will implement this thing. I have kept similar kind of sentences in that text. So I'm taking you to the coding part. So the agenda for this first code is we have to cover bag of words as well as TF-IDF. Let's complete the bag of words first. So when we are implementing bag of words, obviously you are dealing with the text, and I have already done this thing that I have put the text.xls file. If you look into it, it looks like uh, I mean, I can share the screen in terms of this Excel sheet also. Give me 1 second. I'm showing you the Excel sheet, how it looks like. It is a very simple one. There are only four sentences in it. So I'm sharing the Excel screen. Okay, so here it is. So these are the only four sentences. First is the kind of column name sentences, and then boys are good, girls are good, boys and girls are good. So this is similar to what we studied in the uh, slide also. So I'm going to import this Excel sheet so that we can work around these three sentences. And these sentences may be long. There might be thousands of sentences in one data set, but just for the understanding purpose, we are taking very small example. Now, coming back to this code, we have to first import pandas as PD because then only I can make a data frame out of it. So text is one of the data frame name that I have written, and then PD dot read Excel text.xls. So text.xls is the file I have already imported here. So we can directly read the Excel file, and it might be a CSV file, then also it will work. It will be just that you can name this as CSV, but for now we are directly reading this XLS file. So this read Excel will be used to import. Then if you see the head of it, head generally gives the first five sentences, but there are only three in this case. So you can see the three sentences as it is. This is kind of the full data set right here. So now if I want to see the shape of this data frame, text dot shape, the shape is 3 comma 1. There are three sentences. So 0 1 2 are the index and number of sentences are 3. So that's why 3 comma 1 single column. Now I want to do some pre-processing and I want to get the work done. And bag of words, we have understood that we have to make a frequency table in which I mean I want to first see the unique words, and then I also want to plot that how does this bag of words thing look like, how does this embedding look like, because in the end when we say that we have the output as 101 110 that we saw in the slide, that 110 or 101, it is kind of a embedding in itself. So now if I want to import NLTK, before that I have to also install it. Now because I have already done it, that's why it is saying already installed, but in your case it will install for the first time. Now I also want to import the stop words, because stop words will help me to identify the extra words and they will be removed. Okay, and now I want to get the work done in a way. Let's see what is to be done. I am removing the stop words, and how does this look like? Let's look at it. So this import RE. RE is regular expressions. NLTK.corpus import stop words. So we have already installed stop words, so we can import it, and we are using the regular expression library. So you can read more about regular expressions. I will give you extra material also on it. I have already one pre-recorded video. So from nltk.stem.potter, this is one of the package from which we are using this potter stammer function, and this function is being written as ps object. This corpus equal to empty data frame. So this means that, so this is an empty array, right? So this corpus equal to empty array, or list in Python. So we are going to append the sentences. We will be appending this corpus one by one. So we are going to decode it. We are going to uh, do the job. So let's see what is being done. So we have this text, and text has a length of 0 1 2. Total length is 3. So it will go one by one. All the sentences will be, you can print this. I printed for myself that okay, it is being done for all the three sentences. I can now make it as a comment so that this I does not get printed. But right now I'm generating a corpus, and for corpus initially I have taken an empty list, and then I'm going to do these things, that I am going to substitute if anything is not. So this is kind of a not symbol. If it is not A to Z, then it is going to be replaced by, substituted by a empty space in this sentence. And then we are also making it lowercase. We are splitting each word one by one, and we are also in a for loop. This is a single line for loop. You can look into it on your end, but we are removing all the stop words out of my sentences. And then we are also uh, joining all the spaces together, so that at least my sentence will be look cleaner. So in a way we have developed a corpus. We have what we have done is we have updated our corpus in a way that all the words are unique, all the words are in lowercase, and we are also removing the stop words. So if I want to print the corpus here itself, I can do it like this. Out of the for loop I can directly write corpus, and it will be printed. So my corpus looks like this. Now my corpus has this boy good from the first sentence, because the sentence was boys are good. So boy good is my first sentence, where I have already removed the extra spaces. In our case there were no extra spaces, but still, and it has been converted to lowercase. The words has been uh, converted into, all the sentences have been converted into a single corpus. Now in this corpus you can see unique words in lowercase have been given one by one, and this is my corpus. It can be 1,000 sentences long, but for now the collection of final sentences on which I want to work on, it is corpus, and it is very small for now. Now let's create the bag of words. And bag of words, we saw that we will be generating the frequency table, and then we will be developing the embedding also. So okay, so it's done. Now sklearn.featureextraction.text. So this is actually, I mean, this will give us the unique words out of the corpus. So these were these are the sentences in my corpus. Now first I want to get all the unique words out of the corpus, and for that I am using this count vectorizer. It is part of sklearn.featureextraction.text. So this is the library from which we are importing count vectorizer, and then we are creating the bag of words. And for that, the first rule, the first part of it is to get all the unique words. So my unique words are this, that I'm generating this count vectorizer dot fit corpus. I'm running this count vectorizer on my corpus, right? And for that, it is being stored in this bag of words article, and then bag of words article dot get feature names. All the feature names will be uh, updated, and then transformation. So just by using these three commands, I can get the count tokens. So uh, my updated tokens are looking like this. And then if I want to see this article vect, it will look like, I will show you. If I want to look at this, so it looks like this. So it's just that it's written the 3 into 3 sparse matrix of class numpy with 7 stored elements in the compressed parse. You can, it's just that because they have done the transformation in this statement, in this piece of code, so it is now having this information. It is a compressed parse row format. It is telling that detail, but otherwise we are going to focus on these three words and the count of them. So this is how it looks like. This is the last command in bag of words. We are actually doing this for a data frame, pd.data frame, and we are converting our article vect into array, and columns are count tokens. So these were my columns. These are the column headings. Here you can see that, and all the count vectors are like here. 101, 011, 111. So you can see that there are 7 occurrences: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's why it was written that there are 7 stored elements. So that's all for bag of words. That's the end of it. If you have any doubt till now, you can ask. The main thing was this part and this final one. So only this is the main part of creating the bag of words, generating all the tokens, and then getting the final data frame, and it looks like this. If you have a doubt, you can ask. Now we are going to continue this thing, and we will get done with the TF-IDF method also. But before this, I want to again take you back to the PPT where we saw that how the bag of words were working. Now we will look into how our TF-IDF works. So TF-IDF, in this slide, you can see that it is starting from the sentence 1, 2, 3. Again, I have taken this after the pre-processing part that we did in the bag of words. So this removing the stop words and making it into lowercase, this has been done, and from there you will continue to get the work done in TF-IDF. In this you will be having this again frequency table for each word. So you will be converting them into vectors, and now for converting into vectors you will be generating two types of vectors. One will be TF, other will be IDF. Now TF means term frequency, and IDF means inverse document frequency. So uh, this term frequency has a formula of number of repetition of words in sentence divided by number of words in sentence. So let's look at this TF table. Okay, and one second, I want to use the pointer. Yeah, so this is my TF. The formula is number of repetitions of words in sentence divided by number of words. So for this good word in sentence one is coming once, right? There are two words in sentence one, good boy. Now good is coming once and total number of words are two. So 1 by 2 here, 1 by 2 for second sentence also, and for the third sentence 1 by 3 because good is coming once, total number of words are 3. So 1 by 2, 1 by 2, 1 by 3 for good. Then boy, 1 by 2, 0 and 1 by 3 obviously. And for similarly for girl, girl is not present in sentence 1, so 0 in that case. Girl is 1 out of 2, so 1 by 2 for sentence 2, and sentence 3 1 by 3. So TF generation is very simple, and anyone can do it easily. But now I want to also convert, I want to generate this IDF table. IDF table has a formula of this log into log of number of sentences divided by number of sentence containing that word. So in this case, total number of sentences were 3. So you can see in the IDF table, numerator inside the log is always 3. Log 3, log 3, log 3. Now denominator means number of sentences containing that word. So good is being there, is there in the all the sentences. So 3 by 3 for good. Log 3 by 3 is equal to 0 because log 1 is 0. Boy, log 3 by 2. Why? Because 3 to आएगा ही numerator and boy is there in the first and the third sentence. So 3 by 2 in that case. And similarly girl, log 3 by 2. So if you solve this thing and now you want to, now you have this TF, you have this IDF, but now you want to make this TF IDF as a combined table. So this can be made like this. Uh, so these will be the three sentences, sentence 1, 2, 3, and this good boy girl are the three columns. But now you are going to multiply all the values across TF IDF. So good for sentence 1, good for sentence 1 has this TF value of half and IDF value of 0. So half into 0 will be 0, that's why 0 is here. And for boy sentence 1, boy sentence 1 has a value of half of TF and log 3 by 2 as IDF. So half into log 3 by 2, this is here at this place. Similarly for girl sentence 1, 0 into anything will be 0, so 0 at this place. So 0, half log 3 by 2 and 0. Similarly for the other two sentences you can fill, multiplication is very simple. Now I will be showing you the code how to implement this thing. Let's go back to the code. So we have already done the bag of words creation and we will be utilizing the same preprocessing. So whatever was done earlier till this point, it is actually exactly same. Okay, for even for TF-IDF. Now after that, the next thing will be we have to generate the corpus. We have to update the corpus according to TF-IDF. So TF-IDF vector will be equal to TF-IDF vectorizer into dot this fit corpus. So we had this corpus, our corpus look like this. So this is my corpus. This full corpus will be passed into this statement of TF-IDF vectorizer dot fit corpus, and this is part of this library feature extraction dot text TF-IDF vectorizer. So after doing this, my TF-IDF looks like, let's see the properties of it. So this is the property of my TF-IDF vectorizer. Analyzer is word, uh, decode error strict, norm 12. So these are the multiple things here. Stop words are none, obviously, because we have already updated our corpus. There are no stop words in it. Uh, I mean, you can go into the details of this TF IDF vectorizer and look into how this works. And it can be found, I think, by TF IDF dot help, or maybe like this. Yeah, so it can be found by this thing, help, and then in bracket TF IDF. Let's see. Yeah. So putting the TF IDF in the bracket, you will get all the information about TF IDF here. It The help says that it is part of the class, this TF IDF vectorizer, count vectorizer, and then you have multiple things inside it. All the parameters have been explained here. What is the input, what is the encoding, what is decode error, what is strip accent, lowercase preprocessor, tokenizer. So all the things can be found here. You can look into this thing and get to know more about this TF IDF here. But now let's extract all the features and tokens, right? So I mean, same thing but for IDF now. So all the unique tokens are boy, girl, good, TF IDF dot get feature names. Then transforming the corpus into vector. So in that PPT, I showed you how to calculate TF, how to calculate IDF, and then we combined the TF IDF. But here we are directly going to implement our thing and we are going to get the answers. So I have not broken that down here. TF and IDF have not been uh, calculated independently, but I have implemented this using this thing, tfidf dot transform corpus, and then after that we are directly passing this thing, that the names are count tokens and data is this article vect dot to array. So if you get this thing printed, you are getting these kind of values where you can see that girl was not there in the first sentence, boy was not there in the second sentence. So accordingly, obviously these two values had to be zero, and other values have been updated accordingly, whatever the result was coming to be. So this is all about bag of words as well as TF IDF. If you have any doubt in whole of this code, you can ask. Otherwise, we will move to the next programming exercise today, ridge and lasso regression. So um now we are going to start with the ridge and lasso regression. So what is ridge regression? In ridge regression, we generally try to shrink all the coefficients that are available in our equation. And in lasso, we are trying to shrink it, but we are also trying to select some of the variables, and we are trying to minimize the others by making the beta value 0. So we will see how this works, and let's begin. So ridge and lasso regression is generally helpful in reducing the overfitting. Okay, if someone asks you what is the full form of lasso, it is least absolute shrinkage and selection operator. And ridge regression is also called L2 regression, and L1 regression is lasso. So these are some of the basic points that you need to remember for this. But now for implementing them, let's begin and let's see that how these things are being done. So this NumPy and Pandas are two libraries that will be helpful for us to deal with the mathematics, to deal with the data frame. But now these two libraries have been added. These two are the plotting libraries. These are visualization libraries. Matplotlib.pyplot as PLT, and Seaborn library is also visualization library that will be used in this practical. We will be using it as SNS, like we have already implemented pandas, and we used to do pd dot data frame. Similarly, now if I want to let's say plot a box plot, so I will write sns dot box plot, something like that will be done, right? And now these are the different pre-processing libraries, the linear model libraries, the matrix. So we are already importing it. We have imported all of them, and now we will work around this. So this is optional. If you do not want to ignore the warnings and let them come, you can skip this thing. Otherwise, if you do this thing, if you run this, your warnings will not come, only the errors will be shown. Otherwise, sometimes when there are some warnings, even if it is not affecting the final answer, uh, they come. But if let's say that I want to keep the code clean, that's why I'm trying to ignore all the warnings. So now if I run this, so after that I want to use the data set, but in this I'm not importing any data. I am directly uh, kind of, one second, I'm going to restart so that the numbers remain fine. Yeah, so these are the two columns. First column is marketing spend, second one is sales, and it is in millions, right? So these are the numbers and sales are there. And let's see that how this data frame looks like after converting this data into data frame. So it looks like this. So we have two columns. Let's say that one organization spent $23 million by using that, I mean, doing the marketing, and they did a sale of 651 million, uh, and they got a very big kind of a 20 to 250%, uh, maybe 25 times. Yeah, it is 25 times than what they spent. So this is kind of a very simple data set where we can see that there are two columns and we have to implement, let's say, linear regression on it. And let's see that how that works. So if I want to plot a scatter plot, I have to use this command sns.scatterplot, where I can see that all the 5 points are being plotted with the x and y axis as marketing spend and sales. So this is how it looks like. These are the 6 points that were there here. These are the 6 points, and all of them have been plotted by using this command of sns.scatterplot. Data equal to data, x equal to this, y equal to this. So we are giving the data, and we are also giving the labels to x and y axis. Very simple to understand, and this is how we plot our this scatter plot. Now I want to fit a straight line. I want to fit a linear regression line in this, and let's see how it works. So there is this thing called scaling. Scaling is generally used because some numbers are small and other numbers are large. So just to bring them on a similar scale, we are trying to do this kind of a scaling, and this is called minimax scaler. Depending on the maximum number in a column, it will try to uh, make the data set that way. I mean, it will convert that into the range of 0 to 1. So if you do this thing, if you do this kind of scaling on these columns and you are doing this fit transform, your data will look like this. So this is the updated data set. Here you can see that minimum number has become 0, right? So 23 has become 0, and 48 has become 1. This is the maximum number, and depending on the range, min max, similarly for the second column, according to that min max range, all the numbers have given the percentiles. So this is kind of a percentile, right? This is the maximum number, this is the minimum number, and all of the numbers are all of the numbers are percentiles of it. So let's say the highest number was 48. 80% of 48 is 4.8 into 8. So something like that was there, right? So you can see here, I mean, that kind of scaling has been done. And after that, uh, now you want to plot a scatter plot again, depending on the new min max, right? So you are plotting it and it looks like this. So the range, the scale is 0 to 1 in both the x and y case. Earlier, my scale was this up to 45 on the x-axis, up to 1300 on the y-axis. So min-max scaling is bringing them into the range of 0 to 1, and it looks same, just the axis numbers have changed, the scale has changed. Now I want to build a linear regression model. It looks like this. So I want to define what is my x, I want to define what is my y. So this way I am telling my x and y, we have directly put the values, and then I want to fit my linear regression, right? I want to fit this thing. So linear regression function is being put in the reg object, and then this linear regression object dot fit x and y is being fit here. And if I don't want to do the prediction, I can save it in ypredict equal to reg dot predict x, right? I'm passing my training data, I'm getting the predictions. So this is how my predictions look like: 0 0.05, 0 0.17. These are the numbers. So now I want to check the r square score. What is r square score? That is, I mean, we have seen that in the regression matrix, evaluation matrix. So r square score is in the range of 0 to 1, and higher the number, it is better. So in this case, 0.96 is coming out to be the r square score. This is very good. 96.5% r square is a very good number in the range, considering the range is between 0 to 1. So it is a good number because it is high. Now we are going to implement for this thing that we are printing residual sum of square, mean square error, and the root mean square error. So root mean square error can be obviously calculated by doing a square root of MSE. So this is power function. This is kind of a power. When we are giving 2 stars, it means we are taking the power of this number, which is 0.5. So these are the different numbers that are being checked. So this RSS is 0.026, MSE is 0.004, RMSE is 0.066. So these are the different numbers that have come out to be for us. And now how does this look? So let's look at them. Let's plot them and let's see how my line looks like. So this is how my linear regression fit line looks like. 5 out of 6 the points are close to my red line, and only one dot is away from it. But now this is kind of a underfitting, right? Because we are not caring about this point. We have not done any kind of uh, we are not caring about any kind of underfitting or overfitting in this case. This is very simple. This is underfitting. But obviously in this case there were very few points, so it can be said that it is fine, but it can be improved. And for improving it, let's go to higher degree of polynomial, right? So for higher degree of polynomial, let's do the reshaping of our x. So this marketing spend data has been converted into this uh, column wise from row wise. Now if I want to uh, now if I want to do the polynomial features, so there are 3 features that I want to take. It means that whatever the number is, let's say 0, so I want to convert that into 4 parts: 1 x, x square, x cube. So 0 will be 0 in all the cases, right? I mean, obviously 1 will be there, but 3 zeros will be there. But for 0.12, 1.12, 0.12 whole square, and then 0.12 whole cube, this kind of transformation will be done, and it looks like this. So for 0, my updated data looks like this: 1,000. For 0.12, it is simple: 1.12, 0.12 square is 0.011, 0.0144. 0.12 whole cube is this. So this is again easy to understand that we are trying to transform our data into higher polynomial degree, and these are the different values that we have got. Now I want to do it for degree 5, and for degree 5 I can do it again up to x raised by 5. So the function will be this: we can implement the polynomial features. So polynomial feature with a degree can be called, this function can be called, and polyreg 5 dot fit transform, and all of them will be fitted with the up to 5 power. So when I plot this, it looks like this. So with a degree of 5, obviously it is doing the overfitting. Now it is covering all the points, but it is having too much of curves compared to the initial line. So what to do now? If you first check the r square and other numbers, r square is 1, for a simple reason, because you are fitting everything. There is no gap between the point and the line. So r square is 1, which is 100%, which is a good thing. But then this 100% is not good in a way, because you are getting it through degree 5 polynomial. And with single degree polynomial, we were directly getting 96% of r square, and now we are getting 1 by making too much of complex curves and getting all the other values. You can see that these numbers are also very small. Root summa square is 5.9 into 10 to the power minus 29. RMSE is 3.13 into 10 to the power minus 15. So these kind of numbers are good, but in the end, we all know that overfitting is being done here. Now I want to implement ridge regression. Ridge regression will help me to reduce the value of that beta that is with each bar. We will be giving different kind of weightages to x raised to power 1, x raised to power 2, x raised to power 5. So all those kind of numbers having those beta 1, beta 2 up to beta 5. So those beta values will help us to reduce the weightage of x raised to power 5 or maybe x raised to power 4, depending on whatever the situation is. But in ridge regression, we are only shrinking the value. We are not making anything zero. We're just going to shrink it. So for that, this is how it is being done. Nothing to worry about. Let's see these things line by line. So we are applying the ridge regression with the varying of lambda. So what is lambda? Can anyone recall quickly? What was lambda? I have taught in class. Batao ji. So lambda is the regression parameter that was added along with my LSC or gradient descent optimization equation, and we add this lambda along with that summation of beta square in terms of ridge regression or maybe absolute beta in terms of lasso. So this lambda is a regression parameter. So let's see what's written. So we are saying that x sequence is equal to np dot linspace, and we are having these numbers x dot min, x dot max. So linspace, what does it do? It gives me the numbers between the between this range, between the min and max value. It will give me 300 numbers in this case, and this is my x sequence, and we are trying to reshape it in this -1 to 1 size. So this is value, this is the value to be considered for predictor variable. Now lambdas are different. Here we have taken multiple lambdas ranging from 0, 0.001. So the 0.001 can be written as 10e minus 3. 0.01 can be written as 10e minus 2. Similarly 10e minus 1, and this 1, 10, 100,000. So these are the different lambda values having very small to very big number. So higher the value of lambda, more is the regression. So we are just saying here that higher the number of this, obviously we are increasing the weightage of lambda, and then my summation of beta will also be affected, beta or beta square, depending on which type of regression is it. But yeah, I mean, higher the number, more regulation. So for all the lambdas, for I in lambdas, it means for each lambda one by one, we are going to do this thing. So whatever is written inside this for loop, we will do. For degree 5, we will be going through this ridge coefficient equal to polynomial features degree, and then we are going to check for x polynomial. This looks like this. I mean, what we are doing is we are first getting the equation in the polynomial feature degree. We are getting the equation, and then we are also concerned about the x polynomial. So x polynomial will be equal to ridge coefficient dot fit transform. We are transforming our x, that is the actual data, into this ridge coefficient, and then we are saving it in x poly. Ridge alpha equal to I means that we are initializing the ridge regression model with a specific lambda. So whatever the I value is, whatever the lambda value was written, depending on the iteration number. Alpha will be this number, and then ridge regression dot fit, we are fitting it with the, obviously the output variable is not being updated, but we are using the xpoly. So xpoly was this transformed data, and yeah, and if I plot it now, just see that we are plotting it in this for loop. So if there are in this case there are 8 different lambdas, so 8 different figures will be plotted every time uh, the every time the lambda changes, every time the figure will be printed. And we are also concerned about the, so yeah, this is part of for loop only. So we are also concerned about the y prediction. So once it is done for the y prediction, we can also look into the R2 score along with the coefficients that, okay, so have they stringed or not. So when we run this code, we are generating 8 plots, and we are also getting these kind of numbers, R square value and coefficients. So starting from the first graph, this is how it looks like. Degree is 5, lambda value is 0, and it looks like this. Obviously when lambda is equal to 0, nothing changes. 0 into summation of beta square will be 0, so it is equivalent to whatever we were getting earlier. So now, I mean, this is same as earlier, I mean, latest we saw above that r square was 1, it is actually same, and all the numbers are here. So initial beta values are these, 2.94 minus 19 point this, 71 point this, minus 95 and 41.999. So we are going to shrink these values depending on the lambda values now. So 0.001 is a small number, but let's see that how it affects our numbers. Okay, so it is affecting a lot. I mean, 41.99 is now 0.55. Minus 95 is now minus 0.38. So it has shrinked a lot. Even this 0.001. Then again, I mean, you can see that R square value is 98%, but now if I make it 0.01, so now regression is being increased as the value increases for lambda. So this is now 0.017 minus 0.14 minus 0.17, and R square value is again 98.09. So now lambda 0.1, R square is equal to 93.9%, right? Out of 1, it is a good number, and my values are shrinking again. The numbers are getting small. When lambda equal to 1, numbers are like this, and but R square value is now getting disturbed. Earlier it was above 90, but now because we have made lambda as 1, so it is, I mean, it is getting low values still. I mean, it is not that low, because earlier we were getting in minus and it was very small, but now the numbers are also large. They are all positive, and then R square is also affected. Again, in the next case, lambda equal to 10, R square is very low. It should be near 1. It is 38%. It is bad. For lambda equal to 100 and lambda equal to 1000, my, I mean, obviously we can see that the prediction is also not that good. It is actually wrong. So that's why 0.006. So it is 0.6%. So 0.006 on a scale of 0 to 1, very low. Now, this is what we saw, and depending on our understanding, maybe we can say that degree 5, lambda 0.001 performed the best. All the polynomial coefficients were low, and 98.77% was achieved on a scale of 0 to 1. So this one was good. Even with the degree of 5, with this lambda number 0.001, it performed quite good. So now let's look into the lasso. Lasso will make sure that uh, the number of coefficients are also reduced. So this lasso has a full form of least absolute shrinkage. It will be doing the shrinkage. It will be doing that kind of a reduction of the value. But and selection operator means that it will make some of the uh, coefficients as fully zero and make the value of that particular part of the equation as 0, because when 0 multiplied by any x to the power, it will be 0. So let's see that how this works. So for lasso, my equation is that we are adding lambda into summation of absolute beta, not the beta square. So that way, again, we have this array of lambda values, and all the things are same. Just one thing is changing, that we are now using this function lasso coefficient dot fit transform, and this lasso function with alpha value is being given. So alpha in this case is lambda only. Lambda values are being sent one by one. And yeah, I mean, lasso regression dot fit x poly comma y, we are trying to fit the equation, and then we are going to plot. Every time we are also going to check again the r square value as well as the lasso coefficients. Now earlier we were looking into the if you remember correctly, earlier we were looking into the ridge regression dot coefficient with the underscore in the end. We were looking at the model coefficients, and every time we looked at the coefficients, we could see that it was getting worse when we were going above 1 in terms of lambda. But in this case, now if we plot it, you can see that when my lambda is 0.001, my square value is 98.2, and some of the features have already got their beta value 0. This one is 0, this one is 0, this one is 0. Minus 0 is 0 only, right? So only kind of out of these 5 coefficients, only 2 are left. Other 3 are 0 now. So this is a good thing, right? Lasso is performing already good. It has done the feature selection for us. And if we are taking the lambda value as 0.01, it is giving me 0.90, and all the other 4 are 0. So it is actually a very good one, because it has brought us back to a single coefficient. But now you can see that these two are very similar lines. So earlier my simple linear regression was also straight line, and this one is also straight line in a way, because we are only depending on one point. Lambda equal to zero point 0.1, again you have only 1 point, and notice that whenever we have only one coefficient and all other are 0, it is a straight line for obvious reasons. Okay, and again this one, all of them are 0. I mean, it is not even plotting anything, so it is equivalent to parallel to x-axis, and slope is 0, right? So next time, for lambda equal to 10, again all 0. For lambda equal to 100, again all 0. For lambda equal to 1000, again all 0. So we can say in a way that, okay, this one is the best one, because it has two variables. It is doing some kind of uh, I mean, it has some kind of curve, but it is taking only two variables to plot it, and it is doing it in a good way, because r square value is also near 1. So this was the best. Lambda equal to 0.001 was the best one in this case. After that, now let's look at the specific lambda values. Let's say that we are using 0.001. We saw in both the cases 0.001 performed quite well. So now if I plot it for exact lambda value of 0.001, and we plot for lasso, so this will be the these will be the numbers that we get. This is for ridge, this is for lasso, and these are the r square values of both of them, both above 98%. And now if I want to plot all of them, I want to plot the polynomial equation, I want to plot the ridge, I want to plot the lasso. Let's see, I mean, not plotting, but at least we will be comparing all the beta values. And it looks like this one. Here you can see that for a polynomial, all the values were there. We have seen this, that these numbers were very good, very huge. For ridge, numbers became small, maximum numbers became small, and it gave us a good amount of r square value. But for lasso, we also saw this, that only the first and the third variable left. Other three beta values made it 0. I mean, x square, x raised by 4, and x raised by 5 were reduced to 0 in this case. So this is the comparison. We are getting in region less, so we are getting the R square value of 98%. And also, if you remember, with this polynomial equation, we got the value of R square as 0.9. If you remember the initial plot, initially we plotted it as a straight line. Yeah, this one. We plotted a straight line, and in this case, my R square value was 0.96. Okay, so it was 0.96. It was not 0.90, but 0.96. And using that aggregation, we have improved this R square value to 0.98 in both the cases, ridge as well as lasso. If you have doubt, you can ask right now. This is the right time to ask if you have any doubt in ridge and lasso. So this code is available on this page of my GitHub. You can go here. You can see Ridge and Lasso is available here. All the code is available. You can work on your end and you can understand that how it works. Everything is exactly same. I have uploaded this Python notebook today itself. Now coming to the cross validation part, we have covered the first thing. The first point has been covered in the last lab, but now I am going to quickly cover the cross validation for Ridge and Lasso. We have done kind of a cross validation here also because we were using multiple lambda values, but this was a different method. But now this inbuilt function will be used in this case. So we saw that in the last lab we had this load Boston dataset which had 13 columns, and we were looking into this housing dataset and everything, and we stopped at this point that yeah, we stopped at this point. We got these values. The R square values were this 0.71, RMSE was this 4.63. But now ridge regression, if I want to implement the fastest way, it is this is a inbuilt function, sklearn.linear model import ridge, then ridge with the alpha value of 5. Alpha means lambda here. It's just that sklearn calls lambda as alpha. Actually, there is a simple reason also. In a way, I know for a fact that LAMBDA, lambda, is kind of a keyword in Python. That's why they have, I mean, they have tried to implement this regulation also by using this alpha keyword, because alpha is very famous in machine learning and deep learning community. Alpha is used generally for learning rate, but in this case, alpha is my lambda value. So alpha equal to 5, this is a number, and we are trying to fit a ridge regression model. And after fitting that, we are going to do some predictions on the X-test dataset, and getting all the values MAE, MSE, and printing everything, we get these values. But this, I mean, this was the first way. This was something we implemented, and we have done this right through this technique. And then second technique was this thing that we can directly call this function, right, import ridge, and get the work done. But now the third method is we want to do the cross validation the way we did here. In this we had multiple lambdas, and we implemented all of them and calculated everything one by one. But you can also, without plotting, you can get the best one using this method, ridge cv. Ridge cv means ridge cross validation. Okay, and this ridge cv has multiple parameters. Here we are giving array of alphas, and this alpha is lambda. Then scoring equal to negative mean absolute error, because now I mean, we all know that mean absolute error, when we talk about mean absolute error, it has to be minimum, right? Mean absolute error, MAE, should be minimum because we are talking about error. But in this programming, in this sklearn, uh, I mean, just to make things simple, what they have done is they have taken negative mean absolute error. So in this case, higher the mean absolute error value, better. Okay, so in this case we will say that, okay, so whatever the number is, we have to for this particular case, when there is a neg in front of that name, higher the number, it is better. Otherwise, simple mean absolute error should be low. So if I want to fit this what we say, cross validation we will do by using this statement now, because we have already made a object above. Rich CV model dot fit, we are fitting the data set in it. We are giving multiple values of alpha, and scoring is based on negative mean absolute error. So dot alpha function here, dot alpha underscore function here gives me the best alpha value. So best lambda value is being printed using this statement, using this dot alpha function, dot alpha underscore, in this particular cross validation method. Okay, so this is the best one. And scorer dot keys give me all the different kinds of available parameters on which I can do the prediction and make the comparison. So test predictions equal to rich CV model dot predict. We are doing the predictions on the cross validation method in which 10 was taken as the best one. So this is MSC, and I mean, I have I have printed the value of MSC, but you can also print the value of other values. So now my ridge coefficient looks like this. There were 13 columns, and obviously 14th column will have this 0, but all other 13 values are very small compared to what it must have been at the beginning, which was very large. In this case also it would have been large. So after doing this cross validation based ridge regression, the values are low and small. So now if you do the same thing, you follow everything for this lasso also. There is this function called lasso CV, and in this we have epsilon, this number of alphas equal to 100, cross validation equal to 5, iteration equal to 1000. So cross validation is a technique in which we implement the practical n times. So when we say that cross validation equal to 5, we are going to implement it 5 times. The prediction will be calculated internally 5 times and then given the best output. So if we do this thing, dot predict x test, I mean, because we have already, I mean, it is quite simple compared to Rich CV. It has this statement. After that, we just fit the model. This warning could have been avoided if I had used this command that we used here. So I told you that you can ignore the warnings. So I meant this kind of a warning. So this is a warning. This is not affecting my answer, but it is still a warning, and it is not keeping my code clean. So these are the different parameters. So yeah, I mean, this is the different parameter, and model is being trained. When we say dot fit, it means training is being done. Test predictions. So it is doing the prediction on that x test variable. X test has the x test part. You all know what is x train x test, so I will not go into that detail. Now you can also again print this MSE value and lasso CV coefficients. The best thing which can be compared here is that this one was initially 0 only, but other out of the other parameters, now many have become 0. So out of the other 13, leave the first one, out of the other 13, how many have become 0? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So 7 out of 13 has become 0, and only now 6 coefficients will be used out of 13. Total 14 were there, so only 6 were used out of 14 because others are 0. So this is kind of doing a feature selection. We can from this point understand that okay, these are the locations. Let's say that this one is x, this one was x square, x cube, x is per 4. So x is per 4, x is per 6, this one is 6, right? This one is 11, 12, 13. So these are the different coefficients that will be used to do the job, and MSC value is 25.77 in lasso, and for ridge my value is 21. So they are kind of close. 21.8 is nearly 22. 22 and 25 are close. So yeah, I mean, 0.8, and this one is kind of also 0.8. So there is difference of 4 points in MSc. But yeah, I mean, you can, if you can get a MSc of 25 by using just 6 variables compared to using 13 variables and then getting the value of 21.8, I would go for lasso in this case. So that's all. These were the different methods that I wanted to discuss with you people. You can find the codes on this page. In machine learning, I have this region lasso Python notebook also, this one also, in which I have discussed the cross validation just now. So uh, region lasso regression is complete now.